So my aim today is to give you a little bit of a rundown on how to plan your games for FNCS or other tournaments. We're currently on a website called Fortnite.gg that you can see just above me. This website shows you the entire Fortnite map. You can zoom really far in, as you can see, and you can also turn on all the spawns and draw on this map. This is what we're going to be making our plan in. If I give you a step-by-step instructions on how I would plan my duo drop, then you guys can then apply that knowledge to plan your duo drop. Or if you want, you can do it along with me. So first thing we're going to do is find our drop. Me and Ben actually land in Mega City here. We land in this building and like half of this building. So first we're going to come over here, press draw a marker, and I'm going to put where I land. So I actually land on this zip line right here. So after I press it, I'm going to type in my name. I'm going to click confirm. I can then change the color to a color that represents me. Let's say I'm dark blue, and then when I hover over it, it's going to say JKC. I land on the zip line and drop right down there. If you guys are struggling with any of the chest spawns, come over here, press chest on, and you can see all the chests here. The same goes for hollow chests, ammo boxes, floor loot. You can turn everything on here. I personally like to keep it at just chests, but that's just me. If I was to turn floor loots on to help me, I know Ben lands on this floor loot right here through the window. So if we type in Ben's name here, and we give him a colour of his own, we can now see where we both land. From here, press this little draw a path button, and you can actually draw a path around the building where you're going to loot. This normally ends with some kind of meetup point or a farmable map position where you can farm map. You can see I've finished my looting route now. You can see I'm hitting all the chests in this area. This chest is not in the building, it's just above it, so I'm not going to get this chest. This is it on the map. I finish at this chest right here, which means as soon as I'm finished, I can head out to the metal mining point. I put this part in white, and you do this by pressing on the draw a polygon button. This is where all the metal comes from in this drop spot, and we need to make sure we secure this early on. This is why we're landing south side of Mega City. It's important to highlight the maps, and you can even draw a text here and type in metal and put it over here. You need to know where you're getting all your farmables for in these games, because you need to be perfectly sure you're going to have maximum map. Okay, I've now done Ben's looting route. You can see that we're both ending in a similar position by this metal so we can farm up. Since metal's the most important resource in the game and it's hardest to get, you want to prioritize the metal. Right now, I want you to do this slightly larger task of going to draw a circle, and I want you to highlight circles on every place you think there might be a team landing. It doesn't matter how many teams, but just highlight it. There's normally 100% team landing these two buildings, half of the building I loot and the other building here. So I put a circle here to show that there will probably be a team contesting that area. In competitive, there's normally 4 teams contesting Mega City. So that's what I put here, and you can see on the map where all the teams would probably be landing. This is useful because it then shows us the areas to avoid and the areas that will probably be safe. You've got to consider your drop spot for this part. You know it better than anyone else. What are the big no-nos of your drop spot? I know, for example, in Mega City, no one tends to land the massive building in the middle, even though there's a lot of chests there. This is because there's a lot of teams and they're probably going to end up all pushing in at once and you're going to die. Now turn chests on again, and I want you to do the same thing for the area around it and the POIs around the location you land. When that's done, your map's going to look a lot bigger. Now you've done that, I want you to finish picking where you're going to farm your mats. I want you to select little spots for wood and little spots for brick as well. But here's the thing, you need to be careful of where these yellow circles are. Because they're here, that means other teams are likely to be nearby. In this building right here, there's a lot of brick. This is just an example, but there's normally a team landing there. So I wouldn't want to go for a brick there because there is a team there. Okay, there we are. I know for brick, we can use the floor in the building that we land at, because that has really good brick. You just got to apply this knowledge that you've gained from landing at your drop spot to this map. And then I know that for wood, we can probably just rotate and get wood on the way. Wood's not a problem. I now need to consider the possibility that you're contested to a very high degree. Where are you going to go? I want you to put at least 2 safe zones on the map in a green circle that will be safe from enemies. This is in the worst case scenario, your drop spot's so contested you're probably going to die straight away. For us, this is this island down here. It only has 4 chests and therefore is not good enough for a whole team. So that means that if we're contested at a drop here, we can take this launch pad, which you can see on the map now, and we can launch over to this area. If we want to do this, we have to do it quickly because the gas station team would normally try to get there first. And I want you to mark these zones green for good. Our second safe zone is this area over here. You can see again from this launch pad we can take it up the mountain, but there isn't enough chests for a full team, so that's why it relatively remains uncontested. This team can only rotate to either one of these two. You need to think of backup plans when planning for this FNCS because it'll be a key fest at the start. Can I remind you, if you find this useful, use code JKC in Fortnite item shop. It's the #1 way to support me. Let's carry on. So I want you to go down in this little menu here and toggle on Reboot Vans. You can see they all come up on the screen, and I want you to circle in blue every single one that you could go to if one of you went off spawn. And I want you to label them light blue. Now I've done that, I have a much clearer view of where the possible reboots are on the map. It's important to always know which ones are good options, so pick 3 or 4 of the most probable reboot van locations and write them down. For example, let's click on the text icon, type in Reboot 1, we're going to press OK, and we're going to put it on the spot where we're most likely to get a reboot off. For us, as I said before, it's up here on the mountain in one of our safe zones. If you have a reboot van in a safe zone, that's an incredibly good thing. You can now see I've got 4 reboot vans that are all safe. This reboot number 2 is our second option and it's just past one of our safe zones. It's in between 2 possible teams, but that's okay because if it's really off spawn, we can probably get in and out quite quickly. Reboot 3 is pretty next to a team, but there's not many chests in this area, so they're mostly likely to rotate upwards, and then we can get the reboot off. This reboot is the furthest away reboot 4, and it's actually very good because it's so far out of the way of everyone. If we need this reboot, we can just hop on the launch pad, as I've mentioned before. We can move over to this area, maybe rotate in between a couple teams. Especially if the zone pulls this way, it's a very good reboot to do. And finally, I want you to draw 3 big circles like this, the other side of the map. So these are the far zones. These are the zones that people often struggle with. You're not going to struggle with the zones that pull right on top of you like that one might. These are the zones you have to plan rotates for. How are we getting to them? When are we getting to them? If you're in the bottom right of the map, one good tip I'd suggest is turning on geysers. There's a lot of geysers in the bottom part of the map. And also turn on launch pads. And if you want, you can even turn on cars. For us in particular though, we got very lucky here. One of the geysers is in our safe zone. And we can rotate from this launch pad where the metal is, over to this launch pad, over to the geyser, which we can then glide all the way over to here where there's another geyser, and we can slowly rotate our way up the map, up the shoreline, until we're in dead side of this zone. This is a super good rotate for this side of zone because there's going to be hardly anyone there, which guarantees us endgame. Do the same thing of drawing a path and color code it. I color coded it green for a green path to zone. And you can see that it goes a little bit out of its way, but that's because we're hitting all of the geysers, which actually makes it a lot faster. Now we've made it to the dead side of this zone, let's try making it into these 2 zones right here. If you're anywhere in the water, you might want to turn the boat spawns on as well. They can be useful. Our rotate to get on this left side zone and dead side is pretty simple. We're going to use this launch pad once again and come to one of our safe zones. There's actually a boat in one of our safe zones that we can ride underneath the bridge and go around this area where barely anyone lands. Someone might land near Reboot 4 realistically, but there's not many chests there and then they're moved on upwards pretty fast. So we're going to have a free rotate to the dead side of this zone. And finally, I want you to do possibly the hardest one. The one that goes dead across the map. You're not going to be able to get dead side on this one, but see if you can get a good positioning inside of zone that gives you a good rotate. The temple vaults here are particularly useful, as when you get the wrong answer, you actually get rifted in the air, which can give you a very, very good rotate. Right, this one's slightly more complicated, and yours will probably be as well. So for us, we take this launch pad once again, try and stay behind the mountain so the Mega City teams can't spray at us. We're then going to go past Reboot 3, and hopefully avoiding this team right here, round the mountain again, and we're going to get to a temple vault. We're going to purposely get the wrong answer, go all the way to this other temple vault right here. We're pretty much going to go straight through this. We're going to get the temple vault again, we're going to get the wrong answer, we're going to fly to the top of the citadel. This is going to be a great surge spot, but if we're trying to get more placement, we can always go more dead side here. And as the very last step in this drop map, I want you to take a couple teams that you've placed here, the small yellow circles, and I want you to turn a couple of them red. The red teams are the ones that you can keep pretty safely. So these are teams that you have better loot than, or they're pretty in the open, so there's nobody near them. Both of our teams to key would be on the rotates. As you can see, this is pretty secluded. The nearest location is all the way over here, so they wouldn't actually have anyone near them. And if you land here, you don't get a lot of loot anyway, so this would be an ideal team to fight. This team over here is again pretty secluded in this area, and they don't have the massive amount of loot that we have at Mega City, so it's another great option. If you do all of this right, you're going to have a great plan for FNCS. But how would you go pro? Well, this video on the screen right now tells you the exact difference between you and a pro player. Go watch it, it's a banger.